Welcome to Real Estate Investing Made Simple. Hi, everybody. Today, it's pretty exciting because I have my favorite data nerd here to teach us some things about real estate. But first, what I want to say is we do live interviews with experts and leaders in the real estate investing world. I'm LeAnn Riley. I'm a national real estate coach for investors, and I help ambitious people build a step-by-step roadmap to a six-figure income. How? By creating a real estate portfolio of winning cash flow properties with my proven profit formula coaching program. I built a $14 million portfolio in residential, multifamily, condo development, commercial, and vacation properties. And I lead the Encore investment team of realtors here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. So one more thing, check out my YouTube if you want some good education. It's over there. It's just LeAnn Riley Real Estate. And be sure and subscribe while you're there. So today's topic is Housing Insights Exposed. And we're going to unravel that ever-changing market. And is it ever-changing? And that's why we have a guest here. We're going to talk about market indicators. What should we even be looking at? There's so many statistics, but what does it all mean? We're going to talk about low inventory, why and what's happening and what's coming. And then the affordability of housing. Things are changing, and how does that affect people who want to buy or sell, or all of us? Renters, everything. So I want to introduce right over here, we have David Arbit, and he is the Director of Research at the Minneapolis Area REALTORS. And he handles research, economic and policy analysis, media and industry relations, as well as education, training, and speaking. He's a busy guy. And he holds a master's in urban planning and housing and economic development. He's worked for the City of Minneapolis Economic Development, the Family Housing Fund, the Greater Metropolitan Housing Corporation, and the Center for Urban and Regional Affairs. Wow, look at, yeah, there's clapping. And, here's the thing. He's also very well known and quoted in the media because he understands these numbers like nobody else I know. And his hobbies include cycling, downhill skiing, camping, and cooking. So David, I'm really happy you could join us today. And I always like to tell people on here, how do I know David? I know David because I'm a real estate broker. And guess what? He leads a lot of classes, and they're always about the statistics, which I'm kind of a data geek too. And so right away, I found him years ago, and I'm like, hey, he knows what he's talking about. And when I need to know something, that's where I look, is at the tools he's built to figure it out. So that's how I know David. So David, what gets you so excited about the data around real estate?
Oh gosh. I think just kind of noting the environment we're in, some people have called it a post-fact era. Post-fact. And with something as important as your largest investment, whether you're just a homesteader, or an investor, I think we have to do better to get on the same page when it comes to understanding the market. And we do better when industry professionals, the media, and the public, consumers are all kind of on the same page. So, housing is the fabric of communities. It's where we live, and understanding what's happening in that market, I think, is so key. With COVID, with changing rates, with changing policies, at the city, state, and national level, I think it's never been more important to keep tabs on this stuff, especially during market shifts like we're kind of seeing now.
Well, and if I remember, you've taught this before, real estate is cyclical. And it changes though. You got to interpret, what does this cycle mean?
It's true, yeah. So a big part of the cycle sort of comes with the rate cycle, where it's connected to that rate cycle with, expansion, contraction, money supply, QE stuff, which has really just been the last 15 or so years. But the other piece is, when people are ready, and other demographic stuff like boomers wanting to stick around, staying in their homes and aging in place, as they call it, for longer. So there is kind of this rate cycle, the business cycle sort of, but then there's the other sort of human or demographic elements. And let's not forget, millennials are at prime home buying age, and they don't have homes to buy.
Yeah.
And they're not in love with paying 7% on those homes, not in love with that. Then again, how many 33-year-olds do you know with 400 grand burning a hole in their pocket?
No,
That's
not
hard.
really.
That's hard. Yep. So we're in kind of an interesting place, and yet, and I know we'll get to this, and yet we're still hearing there's multiple offers on listings anywhere from 200,000 up to 1.8 million across the spectrum. So that was frankly a little bit surprising to me, to hear that, but it does speak to just how undersupplied we are. And yes, demand has come down, but the thing is, the two have kind of come down in tandem. So the balance has been really tight. I'll show this in a slide or two, but I think the fear was sellers were going to do this while buyers were kind of doing this. That would have gotten us into trouble. But yeah, no, it didn't at all. So everyone kind of downshifted together. So the balance of the market really remained tight. And by the way, we measure that by absorption rates or month supply, as I hope most of you have heard of.
Definitely. So what I'd like you to do, David has a whole lot of stats, and, talking about it is one thing. We got to see the charts so that we can understand it, and go ahead, and he's going to spend some time here and educate us. And this is critical. So yeah. I might break in and ask a question. And if you folks have questions, put it over there in the chat box, as we move along. Okay.
Yeah, please do. We have we kind of have a joke around here, show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Show, don't tell. And yeah, I always think that's important. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but if people don't kind of see, what's going on and how it looks, and I think most importantly, to sort of contextualize it historically. So to put some of the changes we've seen in a little bit more of a, sort of historical context, so to speak.
Okay.
So let me make sure I've got my, I want to make sure I got my chat up so I can see you guys.
Oh yeah, my chat's not up. Good point.
Yeah, just in case anybody asks anything. Let's see, where's chat? There we go. Okay, I've got you guys up. Okay, good. So yeah, a little bit of a cover slide here. I think it does tell a little bit of a story, sitting on a little bit of a Jenga tower, and feel like there's been a couple blocks sort of removed. Maybe we can take the house up and balance them delicately before we rest the home back down on that still solid, but maybe a little bit less solid foundation. So, just be thinking about that, you guys. So a couple of notes before we really dive deep, and I promise you we will dive deep. So I have here, so just where do I find all these many wonderful reports that Mar produces to help me succeed? They're all on our website, you guys. And you know what? This isn't a CE class. We can keep this pretty informal. Why don't I just do this?
Now, David, can the public can go to that website, right?
The public can access some, but not all of the market reports. Yeah, the big one, and I've got it up here. The big one is when you're in Matrix, InfoSparks is the big one. That's the one that's hidden behind.
I love.
I know, and that's the one everybody loves. Everybody absolutely loves it. And we'll play with it today if we have time. I think we should. Okay. So that'll be a really cool piece of today. So yeah, the public does have access to some, but not all. But I just want to show you guys. So a couple options. You can click on market data here, or right back to our homepage, mplsrealtor.com. If I just scroll down right at our homepage, I can click on any of these. Let's just click on the weekly, and this will take me to a map. And we've got the weekly, an annual, foreclosure stuff, supply, monthly indicators. I think you guys are probably going to be spending most of your time here in the local market updates. And this one is like, you guys remember those Russian dolls, the sort of nesting dolls?
Yeah.
I never loved them because they were always so full of themselves. Sorry, I had to.
Yeah.
I had to.
He throws in jokes too, you guys.
Just a couple. Bear with me for just a couple. So within Hennepin County, well, now I've got Minneapolis. Within Minneapolis, now I've got the Southwest community. Within the Southwest community, I've got the fairly luxury-oriented market of Linden Hills with an average sales price of just under $1 million. So you can do this for anything, literally anything. You want Eden Prairie this time, or you want to go back in and go Ramsey and St. Paul this time, and maybe, who knows, West 7th. Should be a little bit more of an affordable price point, more like 300, 330, right? You know, a couple other things we can learn here. Sellers still getting 101.5% of their original list price in that area, which amounts to about $240 per foot. So that's another useful metric, especially for investors who are looking to gauge, is there enough opportunity here, or is there enough room between acquisition cost and ARV, right? That after rehab value.
Yep.
So I think PPSF, price per square foot, is one really good way of doing that. LeAnn and I have talked over the years, over 10 years, and by the way, she's only gotten younger in that time.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sorry, LeAnn, I can't make it, by the way. I can't make it to your party. You have your 40th birthday party.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got the kiddos thing. Anyway, so $240 a foot, you guys can kind of, you know, assess, you know, what a 1,600 square foot or 2,000 square foot home would look like from there. I'll just point out one other thing, you know, days on market, yes, almost doubled from 15 to 30, not quite, but know that, you know, 29 days is still a pretty quick market time. The last thing, and perhaps the most important thing, just in this little exercise here, is month supply. Look at what's happened here, you guys. Even as sales, even as demand has cratered 30%, demand down 30%, look at month supply. It has shrank from 1.3 to 0.7 of a month.
Wow.
And that's partly because inventory is down. So look, sales are down 30%, but active listings are down 65%. There's a huge difference there. So it makes sense that that market became even tighter. Why? Because supply decreased more than demand. So I think, you know, and sometimes I like to say, I don't care if you're a Fox News person or a CNN person, you know, you will watch the news and you will not hear that the market in a lot of areas is still tightening, right? You don't hear that. You hear, oh, sales down 20, 30%. You know, you might hear prices down a little bit, and they are softening a little bit, which has different implications for investors versus would-be buyers or would-be sellers, excuse me. And so, you know, I really do think it's worthwhile to really look at this stuff and dig in and just try to understand it, because I bet your typical buyer or seller or any Joe from the street, I bet they wouldn't have guessed that the balance between supply and demand tightened by 46%. I bet they wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, that it's getting that tight right now. Exactly. But
Tightening
look,
still.
I notice on there's only 9 homes for sale in that area, in that, you know, that's it.
Only 9 in that area. Linden Hills had 22. That was flat with last year. And you know what? I mean, we're here. I suppose, why not? Let's just hop in to April here. And I think overall, yeah, inventory. So yeah, overall inventory still down about 4.5% to 6,100 metro wide.
Okay, from a year ago, 6,400.
Yep. So still down, right? We're not adding inventory. Yeah, we're really not adding inventory. Some people think that we are, and we're really not. We had a couple months of a little bit of a, sometimes I say falling up. We've trickled upwards, but not much, really not much. Okay, let's see, where was I? I want to get back to slides, you guys. And so just know that there's a ton of different reports that you guys can see either on the market data section right here in Fast Stats, which I encourage you to bookmark, or right here on our homepage, as we saw. So use it, love it, use it for good and never for evil. That's what we say.
It's great to be able, real estate is about knowing the numbers, and there's public places to find it right there.
Yeah, there really are. And sometimes we also say there's a little bit of an awareness crisis, a crisis in awareness, where people just aren't aware. And so we'll get calls, where can I find the median home price in St. Louis Park or Richfield or Roseville? Well, do you have a computer and a mouse? Because it's 3 clicks away all the time.
Yeah.
Or a cell phone. This all works on mobile, by the way. We made sure that this all works on mobile. We know you guys are driving around town. So obviously wanted it to work there as well. I'm still a little bit of a fledgling housing nerd. So what does all this mean again? Well, lucky for you guys, we've got, let me get my laser. We've got pendings, ratio of sold to list price. This we use CDOM, cumulative days on market. We talked a little bit about month supply of inventory or month supply of homes for sale. We have an FAQ, frequently asked questions. We define every one of our metrics right there, so you guys can kind of see that as well. I kind of toyed with, some of the different reports. I won't go through all of these. I'm sorry, you said you have how many reports now? We've got a weekly report, we've got a weekly pulse, we've got a monthly indicators, we've got the locals that we looked at, housing supply, foreclosure and short sale report. It's exactly what you think it sounds like. Annual report typically happens about once every 12 months. Most people say they age 12 months each year. I get 18 months older every year. We got our skinny video. I do webinars. I'm doing one tomorrow. So every third Thursday, we do a free webinar. No cost, but you do have to sign up on the website.
Those skinny videos are good. That's like a 1-minute take, isn't it? Or
super quick. Yep, super quick.
quick.
Something you can send to a client, you guys can put on your Facebook or on your social or whatever, and just a really easy to digest market update piece. It's just sharp, it's polished, it's nice, and you guys
they look good.
They look good. Take it and use it and make yourselves look awesome. That's really what we're here to do. Quick take webinars, sort stats, and then info sparks. I call that one the holy grail.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just think, you guys. So stats can answer popular questions. Well, like what? Are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market? Again, I think some buyers want to believe that we are in a 2008 all over again. No. LeAnn's laughing. Right. And because it's a little silly and it's just not what's happening. And as we said at the open, facts matter, right? Facts matter. So month supply of inventory would be the metric to answer that question. How do different property types compare? Townhomes and condos versus single family. Prices up or down, median sales price, average sales price. We already talked about price per square foot. How long will it reasonably take to sell my home? Days on market. How much of my asking price will I receive? Percent of original list price. I'm not a big fan of market timing, so I don't want to think too much about, when do I have the most options or when can I maximize price? Well, you sell your home in May or June, you're going to maximize the price you'll get, but you'll also pay the most on the next one. So it's kind of a wash. I don't know. It's just, don't read too much into that one. What's going on with new construction or what's going on with foreclosures and short sales in your area. All right, let's shift gears. A little bit of a walk down memory lane. The year is 1937.
Ooh.
1937. This is the back page of the Star Tribune. 3809 Longfellow South is going for $3,450.
Wow.
Asking for 10% down, $345 down, and get this, $30 a month paid just like rent.
Interest and principal.
Interest and principal, all wrapped up into one. My favorite part, LeAnn, my favorite part of this is the house includes a frame. It is framed.
The garage, and it's all modern.
It's pretty funny. Some guy out of Massachusetts.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty good, but
Now, wait a minute. Is that a phone number at the bottom? 7548 or what?
Oh, I don't know. Guy owner.
Morse code? I don't know.
Something, yeah, something weird. Who knows? But when I've shown this to a couple different agent groups at a couple different offices, sometimes I ask, has anyone sold 3809 Longfellow within the last 5 years? Because I bet it would be 350 or 400,000 now, easily. Guaranteed. So I always get a kick out of some of the kind of old stuff. All right, a little bit more recent, but not that recent. Now the year is 1982. Now, let's zoom in a little bit. Rates starting at
18%. Yes. And buy it down to 16 3/4. Wow. With 5.5 points. Whoa.
5.5.
Wow.
Holy cowbells.
I
So,
was buying real estate back then at
oh yeah.
18%. Yeah.
Oh yeah. My dad told me the story of the first house I was born in. What did he get? Yes, 16.5%. And he refinanced it a few years later to 12.5%. And he thought that that was like robbing the bank.
Oh, wow.
Which is funny because today millennials can, complain about, well, it did go from 3.5 to 7 to be fair, but remember, even 6 or 7% still below that long-term average of 8% on the 30-year fixed. So yes,
Wow.
it's not as good as it's been, but it's also been a whole lot worse. And I think we're missing that.
Yeah, I think people don't remember that.
I think our collective amnesia, I say sometimes. By the way, if any of you remember Jim Duffy, here's his pager number. Feel free to page him. Okay, we're talking memory lane. Last chart going down memory lane, kind of way back into history. So again, back to 1960. And this is just plain old average price, right? So this is the price at the time, the price that you would have paid at the time. Couple interesting observations, and I won't spend a ton of time here, but a couple interesting observations. One, well, what did we just look at? 1982, right? Rates were 18%, remember? So 1982, that was that period of hyperinflation. So 1982 hyperinflation, look what happened with prices. They didn't crash, but they did increase more slowly.
Yep.
They did level out. Right, but there wasn't really a crash. And remember, the crash, we didn't have high inflation here. In fact, inflation was low here, right? But we had excess supply. We had a lot of foreclosures. We had a lot of subprime loans. We had people being laid off as Lehman collapsed and, everyone else was laying off. So, kind of looking in the rearview mirror, and maybe I can blow this up a bit, sort of looking in the rearview mirror. I mean, look at how nicely this lines up with 06 when prices hit their peak. And look how far we got away from that sort of average channel. That's sort of our average typical channel. We were well above, and then we had to cough it up, and then we were kind of well below. So I like to call this the pendulum. When you pull back the pendulum, it never really stops in the middle. It always kind of swings and overswings. And that's kind of what we saw happening. Now, fast forward to today, and let me get my Zoom tool again.
We're kind of normal.
A little bit more normal, yeah. So guys, this smells like a bubble. Why? Because we're way above our channel, our historical growth channel. When we get way above that, something has to give, right? Because incomes aren't there, incomes aren't catching up. So something has to give. When the market is like that, it has to blow off steam. When it's oversupplied and there's not enough demand for the supply, it blows off steam in the form of lower prices, and that brings the buyers back. When it's undersupplied and there's a lot of demand, it blows off steam with rising prices. And that sort of modulates supply and demand or gets them back in alignment, right? So how interesting that some people really believe we were in a bubble the last 2 years or even the last 5. And really, right, this really smells and looks and feels like a bubble when we were way ahead of that upper bound. Now, right, or at least last year, we were just barely kissing it, flirting with it, right? We just barely crossed. I would anticipate moving forward, I would probably be thinking, a little bit more like that kind of movement versus
a little bit of leveling off, huh?
Little bit of leveling off.
Kind
Actually,
of below the average.
Yeah. So, this was kind of our slope. That was kind of our slope then. And I would be thinking something a little bit more like that. And you know what, guys, actually, maybe a little bit more like that. Probably. Yep. Probably, to be honest. Well, this is annual. So annual typically moves pretty smoothly, but I think we could have a couple months of declines this year, but we may not have a yearly decline as a whole.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting to me. Well, I don't know. I think it's interesting. Anyway, all right, let's erase our little work here and let's move on. Let's keep trucking. Okay, so this is the one, you guys, this is the one that really shows how tight the balance has remained. Okay, so we've got a couple things going on here. One, we've got new listings in blue, so seller activity in blue. Then we've got sales or demand in red, so buyer activity in red. Two things stand out. One, Mount Everest and K2, right? So look at these supply-driven bubbles. Now, let me say that again. One hallmark of bubbles is that they're supply-driven. Look at the buildup in supply that we had in 05, 06. But what happened with demand? Was demand there? Well, it looked like it came along for the ride at the beginning because we had exotic mortgage vehicles or ninja loans, right? No income, no job, no problem. You know, unemployed people don't buy homes, at least not anymore, but they used to. And so the demand really went away when the economy tanked. But look, we still had all that supply. What did the market have to do to blow off that steam? It was oversupplied. So the market had to drop prices.
Yep.
And that's how it cleared that excess or that glut. Well, what do we have now? Do you guys see a glut of supply?
Nope.
Not really at all. In fact, just the opposite. So look at this. When you see supply levels in blue diverge from demand levels in red, we get into trouble. Here again, supply levels diverging from demand levels got us into trouble. What do we see happening now? Supply levels down as demand levels are coming down as well. That's why absorption rates have remained so tight. So let me say this again. The worry was, the concern was that sellers were going to do this because they wanted to take advantage of peak pricing this cycle.
Yeah.
Right? So people were fearful. Well, some were fearful that sellers would be dumping their listings on the market to try to get top dollar. And that's not what happened, because where would they go? They'd have to pay a lot more in price, and they'd have to double their interest rate from 3 to 7%. So, I mean, even if they had to buy their current home again, some couldn't afford it at today's prices and today's interest rate. So I think that's a pretty important piece. And I think understanding this dynamic of how buyers and sellers are not diverging, but they're moving together in tandem. This explains how the market has remained so tight despite a 30% decline in demand. Does that make sense?
It does. And now, at the bottom of the chart, it says 2021, but really that bottom dot is 22.
Yes, it's only every other year.
Chart.
So 17, 19, 21, and that's 22.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's the downturn with higher rates from last year.
Yep.
Good call. So, okay, well, let's look at our, what I call our usual suspects. Let's take a peek at sort of our high level indicators. Let's look historically, and let's just see what we can see. And we'll move pretty quickly. So new listings, May. Bubble time, heading into the crash. Looks like things kind of stabilized a little bit, and then enter COVID. Look at 2020, right? May 2020, that fateful month.
Yeah.
Looks like sellers were kind of trying to push a little bit higher. Part of that is because they were listing their home because they were buying a bigger one, or one with more bedrooms, or one where they could work remotely and their kids could learn remotely, and everything else. And then in 23, right, last month, just no interest rates, or no supply, and interest rates are no good. So they're not listing. People feel married to their interest rate, locked in to their interest rate. What's interesting about that is, what do they say? Something like 56% of marriages in this country end in divorce. So even if you're married to your interest rate, give it 8 years, you'll probably be rounding third base there. All right, so new listings. April closed sales. This one a little bit disappointing. So this was April though. We're going to look at May, but look at April. There's your 31% decline to 3327 closings. That's the lowest April I have on record going back to 03.
Wow.
For closings. That's the lowest I've got on record. How about May? Not as bad. Looks like the declines have eased a little bit, now down only 19%. And that 4902 number, you guys can see we've been well below that, several times. So a little bit of a more encouraging figure. CDOM, cumulative days on market, metro wide. And this is a median, you guys. So remember, half the homes took more than 13 days to sell. The other half of the active listings that went under contract that month took fewer than 13 days to sell. So
That's
again,
fast, boy.
it's still fast.
I can remember when I must be that 114. I was in real estate that year, and I just remember it took forever.
Oh yeah. I mean, 30, 60, 90 days. It's not uncommon, not unheard of, especially depending on price point and area.
Yeah.
But, so, here's the kicker, you guys. Yes, market times almost doubled from 7 to 14. That would have been 100%. Instead, we're more like 86% because we only went from 7 to 13. Again, I don't care if it's on Fox or CNN, you will hear people say, market times are up almost 100%. Run, oh my God, the housing market's crashing.
No.
So on the one hand, it is a fact that market times were up almost 90%. That's a fact. But what that leaves out is, it leaves a couple things out. One, 13 days is still remarkably quick in a historical context. Two, if you just look at the last, 1, 2, or even 3 years, you're putting the horse blinders on and you're really not looking at the whole picture. We had a guy who used to work here who would always say, when in doubt, zoom out. So, which I kind of like that one. And I've kept that in the back of my mind. And it's a good one. So, 13 days, well, guess what? Still faster than the 2018, 19, or 20, kind of pre-pandemic or pandemic, maze, if you will. So yes, it's up from 7, but 13 is not the anomaly. These two 7s are the outliers. Those are the anomalies, right? So don't read too much into the 85%. And I think that's just a piece that's missing, frankly.
This is what I love, David. I mean, like, that really shows something of, 85%. Yeah, right. Because we only had 7 days for 2 years. Yeah.
Up from what? Yeah, from what?
Exactly.
From such suppressed levels when we had a housing frenzy, a buyer frenzy, where people were pushing, prices, 10, 20% over asking.
Well, and COVID was still a factor then.
Most certainly was. That is most certainly true. Yep. All right. So prices, everybody likes this one. Let's make sense of the dollars, as they say. So in April, so let's just zoom into here a little bit. And let me get my little special zoom window. Okay. So April of 22 into 23, we didn't even register the decline, but we did decline from 370K to 369.9.
$100.
Give me 1 second, you guys. Let me look. Hey, I just looked. The sky is not falling. It's up there. The sky is still up there. So, here again, I think people were reading a little bit much into this, guys, and let's take the buyer's perspective. Maybe this is just what they needed for a little bit of a pause in price growth for incomes and down payments to catch up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A little pause, not a crash, right? Just a pause. And the other thing to remember is this is a metro-wide median, meaning it's impacted by, let's say there's more condos that sell that are 180 or 240, right? So that could pull this down a little bit. And the opposite too, if there's a lot of million plus activity, it can sort of pull this figure up a little bit. So just know, not everybody's home lost value. This is just the midpoint of the cross section of homes that happen to sell, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Don't
so
think,
that's April.
No, my house is now, I have no appreciation. It doesn't mean that.
No, I lost all my equity overnight. It's just slow down, slow down. No, that is not what it means. Okay, so in May, we did register a little bit of a larger decline. What are we showing? From 375 down to 370, which was down about 1.33%. Let me throw a little linear trend in there for us, shall I? So this is pretty interesting, right? Notice, you guys, notice how this is actually a pretty good fitting trend line. It pretty much passes through the middle of each of these bars. So this is a pretty good trend line. And then during COVID, prices kind of got a little bit away from us. Despite this very small decline, notice how we are still above trend. Well above trend. So look at blue, you guys. I'll say again, blue is capturing these median prices really well. So that was kind of the growth trend or growth trajectory. And then look at how much of this green is above blue. We didn't used to have much green above blue, and now we've got tons of green above blue. And that speaks to the fact that we have held on to these massive price gains and only given back a little bit. That's kind of the story.
And that's one great thing actually about our market compared to Austin or some of these other markets where or Boise, or they didn't hold on. It all went up and it's not holding on.
Yeah, it's so true. In fact, you know what? Because you said that, let's see here. Real Estate Decoded. You guys are going to actually love this one. Yeah, you guys are going to love. Oh, good. There's a couple more people on that'll get a kick out of this. Let's see. So this is the Case-Shiller data. I'm not the biggest fan of Case-Shiller, but I will cite it here and you guys will see why. Okay, here we go. This is so telling.
Appreciation, okay.
So, yep, so appreciation. So look at this, you guys. USA, so nationwide, sort of in the middle here. Look at pre-COVID. Prices were rising 4, 5, 6, right? 4 to 6% year over year. And then COVID, and suddenly prices were up. Well, that's Boston, whereas USA 20% all of a sudden, even nationally, 21%, right? But now what? Let me shut everything down and let's just go back to the nation as a whole. Normal price growth, 4, 5, 6%. Pandemic price growth, 21%. And now what? 1%.
Wow.
The pendulum, when we pull it back, does it stop or does it keep swinging? It usually keeps swinging. So guys, let's compare ourselves to a few of our peers. Maybe Phoenix. Huh.
Ooh,
Phoenix.
it really jumped.
I bet those sellers were loving the fact that when they bought a home for $300,000, the next year they could sell it for $400,000. That's a 33% year over year increase. That's insane. That's insane. But look at the difference, you guys. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. They're negative. They're giving it back.
Yeah.
How about Minneapolis? Let's throw us on. We never increase as much. So we were only 14% at our peak. But look at us now. Oh, how interesting. We're actually leveling out above zero.
That's
now,
a good thing.
Now, this is Case-Shiller, which it is a good thing. And this relies on some other public records, not MLS data. So we already saw that with the MLS data, we did see that -1, 1 1/3. But this still kind of paints a very different picture. And we can kind of throw Denver in here. Denver already down. How about Charlotte? Charlotte, kind of interesting story. That's still a pretty hot market where people are still pretty hot. How about Vegas? Do those guys gamble with their home prices?
Yeah.
See what I did there? Yeah, they kind of did.
Yeah.
Up a lot and now down. Ooh, how about Miami? Let's do our Florida friends real quick. Miami.
Yeah, the hurricane and everything. I wonder what happened.
So Miami actually 34%. Year over year. They've come down. They're still a little bit high. Some of this is because of boomer snowbirds, people kind of thinking about hanging it up on, on the shelf and thinking about Florida. Some interesting things going on in Florida. You either love it or you hate it. All right, Miami, Minneapolis. So you guys kind of get a sense for.
I like this, and anybody can Google this too, Case-Shiller.
Totally free and open to the public.
Free and open, but it's a really great way to look at markets. I've looked at these graphs a lot to just see what's going on.
Literally just Google Real Estate Decoded and it'll be there's your interactive charts.
Right there. Right.
Yep, so really handy. Yeah, really some handy tools there. All right, median price. So down a little bit. Well, Zillow said my house is worth $400,000. I'll give you $150.
150.
I'll give you $150. CMA, what does that stand for again? Country Music Awards. Nice try. Comparative market analysis.
I like country music.
I don't. Yeah, I'm more of a bluegrass guy than a country guy, but I can get into just about anything. So okay, so April. So let's zoom back to April, and then we'll look at May. So this is one of my favorites, you guys. I've got 3 favorites, and I don't hide them. Days on market, percent of original list price, and month supply of inventory. Those are my three favorites. It's not that sales and inventory and new listings don't matter. Oh, they do. They play into all of those different metrics. But for me, those metrics just reflect, I don't know, they do a little bit of a better job at reflecting the dynamics, or really the balance of power, the balance of activity between buyers and sellers, supply, demand and supply. And I think it really tells that story. What do I mean by that? Well, look, when listings were down, but sales were up a lot, look at this. What percent of the original list price did they receive? Well, not only did they get 100% of their list price, they got 100 plus 3.3, or they got about 104%. So they got all of their list price plus 4% for good measure. That's pretty crazy. We haven't seen that happen, not even during the good old days of the bubble.
Yeah.
Right? And then into the crash where we actually did touch 90. And then does anybody remember that tax credit in late 09, early 2010?
Everybody.
How interesting. So we've got policy guy, we've got a public affairs, policy manager, we've got our government affairs director who's been doing it for so long. And it's so interesting to us to see the impact of policy in the data. Now, at that time, let's also mention, and not in any kind of partisan way, at that time, we thought that tax credit was going to kind of turn the market around. Did it?
No. Look.
Not really. The market had to kind of
right
find its, right, it had to find its footing before recovering sort of naturally. Right, exactly. So we can talk about the policy, was that a good spend of tax dollars? I had put a couple bucks in a bunch of realtors' pockets, but I think it's okay to have a discussion about that. All right, anyway, so that was April. So April 99.9, couldn't quite get over 100. But look, 99.9, well, we've been there before pre-COVID, and those were really strong years. There's nothing wrong with 99.9.
Right, nothing wrong with it at all.
Nothing wrong. In fact, some would say it's too high still.
Yeah.
Speaking of too high still, for May, fast forward to last month, we were 101.1. So yes, notably below the 104, but still, about as high as we've been, actually as high as we've been for any May in the last 20 years.
Wow. Yeah, that lower inventory is driving the prices up right now.
Big time. This, LeAnn nailed it. This absolutely reflects the multiple offer situations on nice listings, well staged, that show nicely, school district stuff, all that kind of stuff. It definitely matters. And we are absolutely seeing that ripple through, absolutely ripple through the data. So let's ask this question. To a Formula One driver, going 70 miles an hour on 35W North feels painfully slow. But, is this what a more normal market feels like? But maybe people just aren't used to it. Kind of, sort of, but maybe we overshot a little bit and kind of overslowed. But I think that's an interesting way to frame it. We had someone, who was it? Was our past president, Denise? No, it was someone else who said, I really should remember. Someone else said, actually, two quotes. The burners are off, but the pans are still hot. I like that one. And I also like, we've gone from Mach 3 to Mach 1. So still pretty fast, but way slower than we were. So I think those two really capture it. The burners are off, but the pan is still hot, and we've gone from Mach 3 to Mach 1. I think that's a super interesting way to kind of think about it. All right, inventory. I know we do. Let me blow through a couple of these. We do want to get time for some questions here.
Yeah, we do.
Inventory, guys, 36,000 down to 6,900, right?
Wow.
Acceptably low. It's how do you want buyers to be successful in finding a property that meets their needs, right? It is hard still, extremely. And so even this, you guys, okay, rates changing, last year, we saw a little bit more inventory. Well, people were thinking a 16% increase in inventory. Oh man, we're back here.
No, we're a long way from it, aren't we?
We're not even back to pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, no, not even close. So again, facts matter. A little bit of math here. we actually need 20,000 active listings. That would be here, because we're selling about 4,000 or 5,000 a month. So 20 divided by 4, that would get us to our 5 months of supply.
So this really speaks to what I say. We're a long way from correcting the inventory problem.
We're a long way. It's going to take more. It's going to take a
Years.
lot. Yep.
Yeah.
Years to claw our way out of this, frankly. And builders, well, builders aren't even buying the dirt anymore because they're trying to liquidate all the homes they've already built at these rates. So they're not even filling their dirt pipeline. And any pipeline they did have, they moved forward for development and building because they couldn't satisfy the demand that was out there. So my grandma used to say, let nobody tell you you don't live in interesting times. Let nobody tell you that. Okay, let's see. Where else are we, guys? Yeah, let's look at year-over-year change in price here. Tax credit, anyone? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty interesting before we had to find our footing. You had some investors, couple flippers, really going into the market pretty hard. And so they did drive prices higher. This is more of a phase 2, maybe we call it, of our recovery. But then look at COVID when price growth really spiked again. But then look at higher interest rates in the middle of last year, where that really took the wind out of the price sales. And then here we are. There's our minus 1.3. So why? Oh, that's why.
Oh, I like this one.
21, house is 600 grand, 3% interest, about 2,000 a month. Fast forward 1 year, same house. Yeah, you might get it for 585, 590, but at 7% interest, payments 3,100 a month.
Right, that's
So
the affordability problem right there.
That's the affordability problem. It speaks to something related, but important. Prices don't matter as much as payments, do they?
No.
Prices don't matter as much as payments. Look, prices came down here. Some buyers might think, oh, the price came down, it's time to buy it. Well, you better check your budget, because that's a 50% higher payment because rates doubled on you. So I think this is a pretty powerful one. It kind of overstates the case a little bit, but it's a pretty decent example.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we looked at year-over-year change in sales, in prices. Let's just quickly look at year-over-year change in sales. The reason I'm showing this to you guys is because it looks like it's possible the worst of the declines are behind us. It's a little early to say, but we've had 2 months that have been kind of well below these 5, peak months. So maybe we start to get back to zero. That would be encouraging.
That would be.
So yeah, I posed the question, are the worst of the year-over-year sales drops behind us? Maybe, it kind of looks like it. So it doesn't mean we're out of the woods, but it may mean we're not going deeper into the woods, which of course is the first step of getting out of the woods. Anyway, guys, I just, in the interest of time, we won't go into every different segment, single family, condo, townhome. This is interesting though, that townhomes are only down 14%, while single family and condos down 30 to 35%. So I think that's a little bit interesting.
Maybe people can afford townhomes now more than the single family house.
I think it's an affordability and payment thing, but also maybe downsizing boomers who are not looking to do lawn and snow care. So a couple different factors there.
That's me in a townhouse. You bet.
There's your girl right there. There she goes. So, one other thing I did want to just spend 30 seconds on is how are buyers adapting? How are they changing their behavior to get their payments, in a place they're comfortable with? Well, guess what? When interest rates were 3% and there was a buying frenzy, and everybody needed a place to work and learn from home, look at the size, look at the total finished square footage of homes.
Bigger.
Buyers really pushed that size higher. But then look at the last 2 years, kind of trickling a little bit lower. I suppose we had a little bit of growth, not much, 3 square feet, 91 to 94, nothing to write home about there. But I think it's really interesting that people are entertaining slightly smaller homes to get payments where they want to be. That also means smaller homes typically have fewer bedrooms. So the percentage of all sales with 4 or more bedrooms, look at during the throes of COVID, everybody kind of needed that 4 or 5. And then, 40.7, even 40.6. So pretty interesting in how buyers are adapting or evolving to try to get that under control. All right, last few here, guys. Closed sales over $1 million. I think we have to talk about this. The luxury market. This is crazy. And I think it surprised a lot of folks.
Wow. Yeah. Look at that.
Look at that. It's absolutely bonkers. So 2 things here. This market tripled from 05, from 500 to 1500. That took 17 years to triple. But look at this. Call this 750 and call this 1500. It doubled in 2 years.
2 years. Woo. That's a lot of sales in that $1 million stuff.
That's a lot of sales. That's a lot of dollar volume sloshing around up there too. And that's a lot of GCI for agents to capture, frankly. And some of that's on the big lake, some of that's in, around 50th in France. I mean, it's all over. But, a 25% jump followed by 50%. And then we tacked on another 7.5%.
Wow.
Absolutely crazy. So that was on a yearly basis. If we just look at May, we do see that these luxury buyers have pulled back a little bit, but basically just back to 2021 levels. Nothing too interesting there. All right, last one, and then we'll shift gears, guys. Many of you know, I think investors in particular are paying attention to this. St. Paul, unfortunately, passed a rent control ordinance. Minneapolis seems like they're considering it. They paved the way in their charter to make the amendment if they so choose. Some people thought as a result that sales in St. Paul would plummet and nobody wanted to buy anything. And actually, they're down about as much as they are in the metro as a whole, right? Not a big difference there. And I think maybe I would have expected a little bit more of a decline because it's a little bit less attractive because of your inability to raise rents to help maintain the property.
Interesting. Yeah.
Pretty fascinating. Yeah. All right. So I lied. This last one, guys, Minneapolis and the suburbs. So Minneapolis in blue, look at the change in sales. Don't worry too much about the historical kind of ups and downs, although we did talk about kind of the cyclicality of real estate a little bit, and you can definitely see that cycle. So this is interesting. Look, in the summer of 2020, sales in the city did pull back while they were still rising in the burbs. But look at what happened after. Sales in the city surged 30%. Suburbs, they were only up 10 or 12. So, we don't want to get too into it.
We're back to the city now.
A little bit of a back to the city.
Now they dropped, though.
And now everything's down about the same. Everything's down about that 20%.
Okay.
So things are lined up. But I think this is interesting because we still get questions from the media and from members about cities versus suburbs. And, people are fleeing Minneapolis and some have left, but there's a whole bunch coming in as well. So take that as you will. With that, you guys, we've just got about 7 minutes. Should we flip it back for questions, LeAnn?
Flip it back for questions.
Let's do it. Okay. Let's see. What do we got? LeAnn had a couple good ones.
Yeah, you're okay. I'll go. I'm still seeing your screen though.
Oh, let me stop share. Okay.
There we go. No, now I don't see you though.
Uh-oh.
I'll ask you a question though. Well, you figure that out. So what about this shadow inventory? Do you think there's a bunch of people waiting to see, maybe the interest rates will go down? Maybe, do you think that, it's only the beginning of the summer here. We still got several months to sell before winter hits. What do you think about shadow inventory? You guys can't see that.
No, I wish we could. We can't see. We can't really see it. But I think it's a good question. It's a good point. It's a legit concern. And I think to a pretty small degree, yes, there is some shadow inventory waiting in the wings. Here's the kicker. I don't think it's a lot. And the other part is, even if it were to surprise us to the upside, I know the pent-up demand is there to absorb it off the market. So it won't
be, yeah.
it won't cause issues. It won't suppress it won't pressure prices. It won't be like this inventory overhang that we can't sell, so we got to drop the price 25. It's just, there's no way it's going to be like that. And there are so many people who have been, locked away, waiting in the wings until rates do change, and that's on the demand side. So I think there's a little bit of supply to come out, but there's a whole lot of demand that's going to come out.
Well, I know I have the reverse of that. What about shadow demand? And I think there's a ton of buyers like sort of waiting, but I'm not sure what they're waiting for, because if they talk to me, I say, we better get looking, because you can refi if they go down those rates.
Yeah.
But it's already lower inventory. And if suddenly something happens, whoosh,
Yeah,
it's going to drive the prices up.
it's gonna, and are, people waiting for a crash, they might be disappointed that
It's not coming.
they're not going to get one. I really don't think, absent some sort of black swan event, something, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. And, I saw another one I saw this projection on the news that said the rates will go down in late 2024. It's a data geek guy I study. He, 24 to 20, maybe get down 4%. Any thoughts on that? I think it was Barbara Corcoran who was quoted saying that from the Shark Tank, and what?
Well, she's smart as heck and has made quite a career.
That's right.
So, yeah.
We can't guess, but you guys don't really follow the interest rates. I got to talk to a mortgage person for that, right?
Well, we do a little here. Let me just share again real quick, just for 1 second. I will show you guys. So we do have, so these are projections from Fannie Freddie, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and then NAR. So they were thinking, so where are we? June. So we're just about end of Q2. So they're thinking 6. We're really more like 6.7, 6.8.
Yeah, we're a little higher.
We're a little higher than that, but they are thinking by Q3, Q4, we could be in the 5s. That would be nice. Here's the kicker. If we do get to the 5s, just like we said, I think demand is going to come out of the woodwork, and we're still not going to have the supply for them.
Yep. So you might as well shop now at the 6.05.
I mean,
have a choice.
Someone said something that really kind of stuck with me. This could be the cheapest real estate will be for the rest of your life. It's possible. This could be the cheapest real estate will be for the rest of your life. It's possible. And that's kind of crazy. Yeah. But just kind of leaning into that, thinking a little bit forward. So a couple of these guys are thinking, 2023, okay, maybe we're down 1%, 1.5%. But look, leaning forward, they're thinking prices maybe 2, then 3.5, then maybe 4 and 4.5. So kind of getting back, but slower kind of at first. Yeah, it's a little bit slower.
What I like about that matches appreciation rate forecast, doesn't it? Isn't that?
Yes, essentially. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, I just wanted to share that.
Okay, I got it. Let's see what I got in my questions. What would you say about the learning curve in new markets? Some investors, like say they're from California or whatever, they just, the prices are way too high. You can't come out on a rental no matter what. If you were going to go look at a brand new market, what's the most important indicators?
Yeah, I think, well, I'd first probably look at sales and prices. Those are big, but then I'd probably look at my favorite 3, market times, ratio of sold to list price. So how much are sellers getting, and absorption rates. Is the Bay Area market at 5 months of supply or 0.8? Most local associations and some state associations really do have good reports. The only issue, some put it behind a firewall for members only, which we understand. We're actually, frankly, kind of considering that so that we don't have to raise dues on members during a down market. We really don't want to do that. Anyway, that's kind of geeky talk on the side. But I would check the local association website. I would check a couple different indicators. The key is, it's just hard to have a feel. Like, we drive around here and we kind of know what's what. It's just hard, but there are other places There's also census data. The Federal Reserve has good data.
Yep, I've
Bureau of,
looked at that. Yeah.
yeah, Bureau of Labor Stats has other good data. Well, I guess here DEED has pretty good data, Department of Employment and Economic Development. So they've got like some wage growth data and, you know, kind of what industries are doing the best. So you can maybe target, you know, farming area for buyers or stuff like that.
Okay, I got one last question that I'm going to try. You know, how many years have you been analyzing the market then?
2010 officially, but in undergrad and grad school, we did analyze plenty of real estate data. So officially in this role since 2010, but sort of unofficially since, I guess, 05, 06, almost 20 years.
So that's why you guys, if you want data, David is a source because he, you know, you understand it in a different way. And that's why, like, I just took some notes, like while he was talking, you know. Okay. And, you know, any advice then for buyers or sellers, like what the heck should we do? Or have we covered it?
Yeah, I mean, so another past president of ours, I think it was actually Pat Paulson, who used to say, you know what the best time to buy a house is? I look at him, I said, no, he says, when you're ready. I like that. And I know that that's been around, but he said that maybe 10 years ago. I was still a little bit newer to the industry, but not to real estate analysis. And I really did kind of like that. So we did talk about how if I'm waiting for this fictitious crash that probably won't materialize, and maybe on the wrong side of that trade, and furthermore, if I do wait, and let's say prices do come down another % or 2 or 3, but we do hit recession and the Federal Reserve lowers rates to try to stimulate growth, you're going to have those buyers coming out of the woodwork and you're going to be back in multiple offers and you're going to be 10% over list price. So does it pay to wait? Honestly, probably not. There's a chance that you win by that gamble, but I would think really probably not for those reasons. So, I mean, you know, have grit. You got to have grit, right? Even now, you're going to lose out on some. I mean, agents. This is where agents are just so much better than I am at counseling buyers and sellers. Thank God I'm not licensed to sell. Nobody would want that. So, I mean, you know, patience and perseverance. What we hear is that buyers are able to pause and have a little bit more room for being selective. Instead of writing 5 to 10% offers over with appraisal gap clauses on every listing that's over 2,000 square feet, they're now being much more selective. So market time's up a little, you know, sales down, but also listings down. So, you know, in some ways things feel a little calmer, but like I said, we're still hearing multiple offers across the price spectrum.
Oh, it's crazy. I showed something on a Friday, I remember, and there was at least 5 other realtors at the same time showing it. It was over on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even gotten home, driving straight home from there. And I already received, you know, highest and best due, you know, in an hour. Like, I hadn't even gotten, you know, it's difficult, but you're right. I see the selectivity out there too. You really got to think, if you are going to do it, buy the right house.
Make sure it's the right.
Don't you? Yeah.
Yep.
And
you can still go crazy on something and really take out the big guns, but don't do it on everything like you would have in 21. Well, in second half of 2020, all of 21 and first half of 22.
Yeah, you don't have to quite so much. But here's a great little thing I want to tell you. I've been in the business a long time, but not I got my real estate license, just so you know, in 07, right in that great time. Anyway, I had never lost in a multiple offer situation until 2020.
Wow.
Never. Like I could get them. And then all of a sudden, what happened?
Know. Humbling in some ways, but knowing you and how good of a negotiator and how much you care for clients, I'm not surprised that you always help them win the deal. Seriously, I'm not surprised. Impressed, but not surprised.
Yeah, it does take a team. There's no doubt about it to pull it all off. And so I just thank you so much for taking the time. Now, questions, anybody, quick, type something in, but David is so thorough, it's hard to have questions. That's what I always notice. And I kind of asked him for you as we went along. I just thank you for taking the time, to share with us, because I mostly see you through the Realtor channel, and we're out here in the public. So,
It's true. It's true.
yes, and just I'm going to share real quick. If someone wants to get in touch with David, I have his email right here. Can you see that? Did I do it? Yeah, there it is.
You got me. Perfect.
Okay, so there it is. Throw that in the chat box, David, since I'm over here on the other screen, just in case you want to contact him. And then I'm going to wrap up with one more slide. And that is, hey, if anybody wants to do a free strategy session with me, and I do two kinds. One is if you want to buy, sell, or invest in the Twin Cities market. Actually, we cover Minnesota from St. Cloud to Rochester with the Encore investment team. Or if you want to talk about coaching for investors, then you can book a free strategy session for either of those over there on my website, LeAnnRiley.com. All
Love
right.
it.
Okay, and we have a Q&A. Somebody's in there. What do they say? Thank you.
My
You're
honor.
welcome. Thank you, David. And thank you for everybody who came and takes a listen to this, because there's a lot of good data on here.
Great to see everybody, and looking forward to next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.